All right. We're going to talk real quick today about heart rate zones. And Ryan, I know you're the only one in here right now, so if you have any questions, we'll address those whenever. Don't be afraid to pop those in and let me know. Um, so real quick, just what is heart rate zone? A heart rate zone is essentially going to be used as we'll call like the GPS for your health and wellness journey. Basically, what it can do is sometimes it's a really good metric on how well you're progressing. It helps you maximize your efficiency in working out. It can keep you from over or under training, and can also help optimize your results for what you want. Um, Long story short, having a good understanding of a heart rate zone could end up catering more towards a goal, whether that's a body or a athletic performance goal that you're looking for. So real quick, to target your goals, I kind of broke down each heart rate zone. There's 5 of them. So essentially zone 1 is going to be for recovery. Usually it's going to be something that's used for a warm up or cool down type of exercise or movement pattern. And usually will help you kind of get primed before you get going. Zone 2 is that aerobic. They say it's great for burning fat and building some endurance. I'll equate that to this, like, I don't know, maybe like slow stepper or stair stepper, type of analogy, where you're kind of just slowly taking steps and we can calculate these a little bit later, but it's essentially going to be that, you're on the Stairmaster and you're going at, less than a mile an hour or whatever for a long period of time. It's typically what people are doing in zone 2. Zone 3 is kind of for tempo. So you're going to be boosting up your cardiovascular fitness and speed in that zone, and starting to get to something that's a little bit more aerobically challenging. Zone 4 is threshold. So that's going to push your capacity and push your limits. And then zone 5 is going to be all out max effort. I think of zone 5 as like you're doing max calories on an assault bike in like 5 or 10 seconds to see how much you can get. So again, it really helps to understand what zone you're in, what zone you're looking for, and then the effect that you want for each zone as well while you're doing a workout. So real quick, the math behind your heart rate zone, essentially the way to determine it is you need to know what your max heart rate is, and then you just multiply it by a factor to decide what zone you're working in. So there's a lot of math for this to say subtract. Oh shit, I'm moving stuff around. Subtract your age from 220. And that's basically going to give you your estimated max heart rate. Now, obviously, this is going to vary depending on, your own physical fitness level, your genetics, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty close. So if you're 30 years old, it's going to be 220 minus 30. So your max heart rate in this case is going to be 190. So and continuing that example, if your max heart rate's 190, you want to work in zone 2, you would multiply 190 times 0.6 or 190 times 0.7 to be working in that aerobic realm. Super straightforward. And I can send out this table to anybody who's interested, or you can just Google it yourself. I'm sure it'll pop up. So I talked a little bit about avoiding over and under training based on these zones. So essentially what you want to do is if I'm, say I'm training for a marathon, I'm not going to run a marathon at max effort every single day. So knowing that your body needs time to rest, recover, and understanding where you're operating in those zones is super helpful. So mapping out a workout plan or fitness plan where you're able to target zones, 1 through 5 at pointed, set at pointed times, like with specific emphasis, is really important. So let's say I decide that I'm going to start training for that marathon, and I'm going to be like, okay, today I'm going to do intervals. I'm going to do, 1 minute of a 80% effort. And then I'm going to go for 2 minutes of a, 40% effort. And then I take my heart rate during that. Well, my 80% effort actually read like 60 or 70% effort based on my max heart rate. And then I'm like, well, now I know I'm not pushing myself to be within my heart rate zone that I'm aiming for my day-to-day training. So that's kind of how you can use that to avoid the under training piece. And then overtraining, like I said, you can't run a marathon every single day at max effort and expect your body not to break down, because it's just natural for you to need a little bit of that in there as well. Next thing is going to be tracking your progress. Tracking progress is super important because as you start to, see, you'll continue your workout over the course of, X amount of years or X amount of months even, and your resting heart rate will start to come down. And you'll also notice that you can sustain higher levels of intensity with the same heart rate zone. So let's say, the assault bike's a great example. Let's say you hopped on an assault bike in week 1 of a program and you could only be in your zone 4 or 5 for like 5 seconds before you were about to pass out or felt like you were exerting maximum effort. Well, maybe in week 4, week 5, week 6, you start to see that you can be in that zone longer, or the time it takes for you to recover back to a more, we'll call regular heart rate zone, maybe zone 2, 3, or 4 between intervals is going to be a decreased amount of time, meaning that your cardiovascular strength is better. Next thing is going to be customizing workouts. So really important to understand, like, hey, I have X heart rate zone, or excuse me, X goal. So I want to lose weight. I want to gain weight. I want to build endurance for an athletic competition. So how do I cater my training program to make sure that I'm hitting my end goal? How do I make sure that it is burning fat, or I am building muscle, or I am, trying to compete in rugby 7s or 15s tournament like you, Ryan. So making sure that you're able to cater your training program is super important. And I say especially important on a loading day. So when I say in the program, let's say I put out a day where I'm like, hey, this today is about heavy load. Your heart rate should not be in zone 5. We shouldn't be in a position in the zone 5 where we're like, hey, we're gasping for air like we just did repeat sprints on an assault bike. Typically the loading day, it may have like 1 or 2 minutes of that as a finisher or something, but there's not going to be a time where I'm like, hey, this is a heavy loading day and I don't want you to pick up, a heavy dumbbell load, do it 3 to 5 times and then set it down. So that's kind of the goal, is to make sure that you understand how that heart rate zone is going to affect your training on the day that you do it. So putting this into practice, kind of like we'll call really generic workout. Let's say this person is going for a run, and their goal is to, compete, I don't know, in a half marathon or a 5K. And they're looking to burn fat, right? So this person may end up hopping into a quick 5-minute warm up. So this can be, some sort of dynamic stretching, whatever. You'll jog for 15 minutes and then you do 5 minutes of tempo intervals. So, 70% sprint, 30% jog, recover, almost like an Indian run style. And then maybe like 2 minutes of really high intensity sprints in zone 4. So it's going to be like 80% effort. You hit that and then you start to recover and you're cooling down in zone 1. So this is somebody, again, who's looking for a fat loss. They're looking to really change their heart rate zones between multiple different ones, get really high intensity, and then also stay within zone 2 and 3 as well, not spending a lot of time in 1. So now let's flip it. If you're trying to build muscle, gain some weight, they like to say that living in like zones 3 and 4 is the best for heavy resistance training. So your warm up again will stay the same. You'll be like 5 minutes. Sometimes you can do some 5-minute of light cardio, and then your bulk of your workout is going to be in that resistance set in the middle. So zones 3 and 4 is where you're going to want to live. That way you're able to maximize your effect when you're building that muscle, that lean muscle mass in your workouts. Zone 5, again, this may not even occur in the workout. I would say like we may in your specific program, you may end up even scrapping the zone 5 all out effort. That way you're able to live more in that zone 3, 4, and then take that more as a, break down muscle fibers, rebuild with proteins at the end of the day, and then even use it as a way to actively recover moving forward. So that's pretty much all I had for you guys for today. I know it's kind of short. Do you have any questions, I guess, at this point, Ryan? Or I think, I think Bobby actually just came in too. Do either of you guys have any questions or anything like that about this stuff?
I don't think questions per se, but I've seen and heard a lot of talk about the zones, and there's even gyms that cater to it, like Orange Theory, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Where you're actively tracking that in, which I think can be super helpful. I actually went a dropped in class or two with my sister one time when I was on leave, and really enjoyed it. And it does kind of keep you on track with without burning out too fast for 45-minute workout.
Yeah, exactly. So that's and another thing too is you can have some sort of a monitor, whether that's like a heart rate monitor or something like that. Buy one of those for pretty cheap. I know some people even wear like an Apple Watch or a Garmin equivalent. Those can be super helpful when you're doing these too. And I encourage you to like check in with it. So like let's say you're doing a exercise and you're like, oh shit, like I feel like I'm working really hard, and then you take a peek down, and granted, Apple Watch, Garmin, all of them have some sort of error built in, so you can't take it all for what it's worth, for the numbers exactly, unless you're buying like a super high tech one. But let's say it's spitting out, hey, you're in zone 3 based on your amount of effort. Well, now it just kind of cages your mind to like, hey, this is what zone 3 feels like, and this is how hard I'm working in zone 3. And then the next time you may not even need to look at your phone. You're like, hey, it's a loading day. I know I'm going to try and live in this realm. This is how much I need to be working my cardiovascular system. Or if you're like, hey, this is a hit day, this is a really, really heavy, interval day where I'm doing a ton of burpees and whatnot, then we might want to ramp it up and go into zone 4 and 5 for some of the times of the workout before we start to recover. Bobby, you have any questions, dude?
Nah, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. Sorry for coming in late.
That's all good.
Balls deep in some remodeling over here.
Yeah,
so.
You're good, man.
But no, I mean, yeah, I kind of echo what Ryan says. I do actually Peloton, which does like an FTP test, so some type of functional test that sets yours like zones
right
for you, and so they like try to run you through each zone, which I found like super helpful for me, like for cardiovascular exercises. But I haven't really got myself into like high intensity weight training and ever into like zone 5 really. So I don't know. I don't really monitor it when I weight lift. I guess I just mainly do it when I'm doing like Peloton or Orange Theory or something like that. So
yeah, so I'll say like taking the know-how that you get from the Peloton might be super helpful when you are in the gym too. Like you can feel the stress, at least I can when I'm huffing wind. And you can kind of start to batch those into like, hey, this is like a workout. This is a warm up, cool down feeling. This is a middle intensity feeling, and this is a high intensity feeling. You kind of batch that up and then get some real data to feel what that feels like, and then kind of let it ride. Sometimes I feel like I'm training in zone 5 a lot more, and then I look at it. I look at my max heart rate, and it was like at 168 or something like that, which my max heart rate is supposed to be like 180 or 175. So I know like, hey man, maybe I wasn't going as hard as I actually thought.
Yeah. That's good. I'll definitely go back and review the first couple minutes I missed. So
yeah, cool, man. Do you have anything else, Ryan?
No, I don't think so. Definitely helpful when you're just trying to be aware of your levels of exertion to try to get through a workout. So
yeah, for sure, man.
Well, and cool. I probably missed it, but you talked about. I'm assuming I'll go back and get it, but like, I think the biggest thing for me is like knowing what level to stay in to just like, hey, this is my like fat burning day. Like I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get on. Like, I'm gonna stay on like, because I do that some days where I'm like just cashing it in. I'm like, I'm gonna go just get on the Stairmaster for fucking 35 minutes, and
right.
I don't want to exert myself, but I just want to like did something today and stayed in that zone. So I'm sure if I go back, I'll be able to see all that. But
yeah, if you go back, it'll likely put you into zone 2 or 3 where you'll be kind of pinballing between those two, to kind of stay consistent. And there's I put in there's a little PowerPoint, and there's like a little table that essentially gives you multiples and tells you how to calculate it in there too. So feel free to pause it there, and you can take a peek.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Yep. All right. If you guys don't have anything else, that's all I have for you guys. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, dude, thanks for prepping that.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Bye.
Later, bye.